You knew what it was going to be like during the week. So you knew what you're going to get, and that you could win with it. And so that was one of the greatest honors I ever had as Marseille, and I was one of the most consistent players he ever coached.
I've told Casey this and Mike as well. I like to go to YouTube, and you can watch a lot of those games from just about any era. The full broadcast, which is kind of cool, seeing some of those old commercials that I actually do remember a lot of.
Yeah, I do watch some of those. I kind of speed through them. I speed through the defense and go back to the offense and get to offensive series and stuff. I don't want to watch those guys. Let's watch it. I want to watch me.
There you go. Yeah, I love watching some of those. And I grew up in New Mexico at that time. So our teams on local TV were Dallas, Denver, and some Arizona, and occasionally you get the Raiders too. So I didn't get to watch you guys play a whole lot live unless it was on a primetime game, which back then primetime was only Monday nights. That was it. So my first game that I ever watched was 1988. I don't remember what week it was, but it was in October, and it was you guys versus the Jets. It was Jim Kelly's first career Monday night game, and you guys won 37-14, I believe it was, and I've been a fan ever since then. So it's kind of cool to be able to go watch those old games now.
We had I don't know if you guys remember this, but we played the Jets. I think it was 90, 91-ish, kind of in that time, and it was a Monday night game, and it was hat night for the Jets. It was playing at New York on the Meadowlands, and we beat them bad. It was like, I don't know, 45-3 or something like that. And at the 2-minute warning, we're standing down on the field, we're getting ready to kneel, and the fans have collected the hats and put them in piles around the stadium and lit them on fire. So there's like 5 bonfires burning around the stadium. And then in one end zone, there's about 20 guys all brawling in the end zone. We're standing down on the field looking around at this, going like, it looked like Mad Max. It's like, we're safer down here than it is up there in the stands. It was crazy. It was kind of bizarre world, there in New York.
Now you can just walk down the street and see that in New York.
Yeah, that's true. That is so. Yeah. Let's talk about really quick about the Bills right now. As far as the Buffalo and their tight end room, what it is now, I've seen some people saying it might be the best tight end room in the league. Top to bottom, they've been making plays here in training camp and practices. What is your assessment of where they're at right now as far as especially with the tandem of Kincaid and Knox?
Well, I think they're both really good players. Kincaid came on last year, and you hope he's going to take. I just saw something where he had 73 catches or something like that last year as a rookie, which is a huge year for a rookie. So you hope he's going to take another step forward and a step up. Become even a bigger threat. You hope he starts getting to that Kelsey kind of Travis Kelsey kind of area or whatever. I don't know if you do. He can't get there, but he's got the potential and the ability to get there. And then Knox is, he's got to be the little steadier guy, but he's still athletic and can run and stuff. He was just a little inconsistent last year catching the ball. And so hopefully, whatever was going on, he can catch. It's not like he can't catch. Whether it's just focus or whatever, or slowing the game down a little bit or whatever. But hopefully he gets back catching the ball consistently, like he has been in the past. And they really are. They're a great 1-2 punch, and you can use them in a lot of different situations, a lot of different. And it puts the defense, does the defense go nickel when they're in there? And then can you go, to 2 tights, align them tight, and then run the ball at people? And then if they stay base personnel, then you can, shift those guys out, and all of a sudden, you got linebackers trying to cover those tight ends in space, and so you can try to hopefully dictate a little bit to the defense what's going on and what they're doing, and take advantage of it, and either throw or run depending on the looks you're getting. So, I think having that combination is going to be huge for them, and they're going to be great. They got to be big players all year long, especially with the changes, in the wide receiver room.
And Casey, did you have anything?
No, I was waiting for you.
Hey,
I thought you were gonna.
I did tell Kincaid. I sent a message to the tight end coach, and because he broke my receiving record, for tight ends in a single season last year, and but he hadn't broken it until the 17th game. So I said, well, tell him congratulations on breaking the record. I'm sure he's going to break it, but just remind him that it took him 17 games to do it, and I did it in 16. So.
Yeah, that is very true.
There is something to be said about that. I've always kind of wondered what people that played in your era think about, the season expanding to the 17, and it's going to happen sooner than later, soon to be 18 games.
Probably, yeah.
Do you think that, not that there should necessarily be a whole second record book because of the season expansion, but what's your opinion, honest opinion about that?
I think, the seasonal records are, it kind of washes, like a 1,000-yard rusher. Yeah. It used to be in 14 games. Guys were rushing for 1,000 yards, and then, now it was 16 games. The 16 games was still pretty good and stuff. So, now it's 18 games, and it's like 18 games. That's you got to average 60 yards a game.
Right.
It's like, is that really that big a deal? So, but I think the career records and that kind of stuff still count, because you're only going to play a certain number of games. I know you're playing 18 games in a season, but when you start counting the number of games and how long you played and the number of games you played, and so I think the career records will still kind of handle themselves and take care of themselves like that.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I do too. Because it does seem like the players today don't last quite as long. Maybe they're just not as tough as you guys anymore.
Well,
I don't know.
No, that's because they got $20 million sitting in a bank account, and so they're like, I don't think I'm gonna, I'm kind of beat up. I think I'll just go home and hang out by the pool.
Well, that's part of kind of what I was thinking when you were speaking of the running backs was 1,000-yard rusher. I think there was only 6, 7. I want to say that there was single-digit 1,000-yard rushers last year. Now,
was it really? Yeah,
I believe so. But I kind of attribute that more to the league becoming pass heavy. Running backs just aren't getting the opportunity that they did when you played. They're not getting the 30
Correct.
touches like Thurman did.
But
at the
and there's a lot of people doing running back by committee now.
Yes,
you get 2 or 3 carries, and then somebody else comes in and gets 2 or 3 carries, and so they're spreading it out because their lifespan has been so short. They're just the collisions that the running backs have to take, that takes a toll on them. It really does. So when you see some guy who stays in there and plays over and over and over and takes the shots, it's pretty amazing anymore.
Which is exactly why I think Derrick Henry is one of the best NFL running backs that have ever played the game. He may not be the absolute fastest, but that dude he'll run over anybody. If he does get an open field, he will run away. The career longevity that he's had and how productive he has still been, even last year in Tennessee, and how god awful that offense was, he still ran for 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns. And I got to be honest, I still expect him to do that this year with the Ravens, even though he's, I believe in his 30s now.
Oh, he's going to get a lot more carries there. Yeah, he's going to get a lot of carries there.
Right.
They,
And I go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say because they struggle to throw the ball. I don't want to rip on the quarterback, but their main threat is running and triple option and zone reads and all that kind of stuff that people have to account for and stuff.
Yeah.
And if you get them throwing the ball, that's hooray for you usually.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, that offense's number one weapon is Lamar Jackson's legs. I mean, hell, he's, put him in a race against Tyreek Hill. I would pay to see that. That he's one of the fastest players in the NFL, and he's a quarterback. So the fact that you have to account for his legs as number one and then throwing as number two, that's almost as deadly as a weapon as Josh's arm or Mahomes' arm.
Yep, no question. Yeah. So actually, when I was coaching one year, we played Minnesota, up in Minnesota. I was coaching with the Colts and Adrian Peterson, and I tell you what, we tattooed the bejeebas out of that dude, and he just kept getting up and running the ball, and they'd hand it to him the next play, and hand it to him the next play, and we just knocked the snot out of him, and it was amazing to see him get up time after time after time and just keep rolling the way he ever rolled it. So to see those guys who could do that, it's incredible. It really is.
And he wasn't, the Derrick Henry size. He was your, I guess, prototypical, 5'10", 6 foot, 200-pound running back that in 6 months came back from an ACL. Yeah, exactly.
He was ripped, but and he could roll. But man, he took so many shots. We hit the crap out of him, and he'd get up and just go back to huddle and carry the ball the next play. It was like, you got to be kidding me. Jeez.
Toughest people in the world, NFL running backs.
Do you see the league ever going back to what it used to be with one of the bell cow type running back like it was back in your day?
I don't know. I want to say everything goes in cycles in the league, and right now it's a passing league. And at some point, some team, a little bit like Baltimore's doing, is going to say, "Hey, we're going to start running the ball." And because everybody is so used to playing the spread offenses and the 3 wides and 4 wides and empties and all that kind of stuff and they've got DBs and everybody's smaller and everybody's faster and they're flying all over the field, that someplace, somehow, some team's going to go, hey, we're going to go 2 tights and we're going to line up. We're going to get a fullback and we're just going to play old school smash mouth football. I believe that will probably happen at some point in time. How successful it will be, I don't know. In the bell cow running back, I don't know. Because I think they get so beat up in college. Of course, now, I think, with the spring ball and all the stuff and I think some of those guys just take so many shots in college that they by the time they get to the NFL, and now with the NIL money, if you're a really, really good running back, you're going to be making a lot of bank anyway. And you get to the NFL and you go, I'll play 3 years and then get out or something, So, it's just a changing world. But I think things go in cycles and stuff. And so I think, anytime that, everybody's throwing the ball, then somebody's going to start running the ball. Or anytime everybody's running the ball, then somebody's going to start throwing the ball. Or, you're seeing some more people going, it was everybody when I first got in the league was a 3-4 defense. And then generally, basically over time, a bunch of people, about half the league, started going to the 4 down front, and now it's mostly 4 down front. But you still got the Steelers, and now you got a few other, defense coordinator people who are playing 3 down fronts and stuff. And a lot of it is due to the passing game, but they're starting to play some more 3 down fronts and 3-4s, and you see the different things and the zone blitzes off of that, and different people coming, and so. It's all kind of cyclical and stuff in the NFL. And, some interesting thing. Well, the kickoff, it'll be interesting to watch the new kickoff this year.
Yeah.
I coached it last year in Europe. We did the same thing in Europe where, the kickoff team and the kickoff return team stood 5 yards apart down at the 30-yard line or whatever, and the kicker's back there all by himself, and he kicks it off, and away you go. You still end up with some returns and stuff out of it. It's a little bit because everybody on the cover team is all on the same plane. And if you get us team in that thing and you pop through there, there's nobody else. You don't have as many. You don't have the safeties. You don't have people coming from different angles and different places and stuff because everybody kind of starts in the same place and they're all in the same plane. So it'll be interesting how it works out and who does what. And I always said we should just, you can't onside until I think the second half or something. And you got to announce it and all that kind of stuff. But I said, first kickoff of the season, somebody should just onside it and the kicker run up and cover it after it goes 10 yards and jump up and down and point, just to make fun of the whole thing.
Do that old Pat McAfee kick where he kicks it straight to himself. I love it. So speaking of the new kickoff
comeback game.
Yeah.
What's that?
So speaking of the new playoff rule, so like you've coached it, you've coached, doing it and against it. What was your philosophy for that? Did you have heavier guy? Like, did you put more linebackers down there, like maybe even defensive ends on the kick return to get the bigger, heavier guys that are used to kind of working in space as blockers? And then who was your returners? Was it usually running backs who are trying to find those gaps? Or was it like, who was like a specialist?
We had a guy who's really good athlete, so we used him. He was a DB, but he was a punt returner and kickoff returner and stuff, and he could find some seams and stuff. So it's kind of a hit or miss. I think some of the times you think because the guy's only standing 5 yards away from the blockers, can you get some bigger guys in to block? So maybe even some offensive linemen if they're athletic enough. Because guys are only 5 yards apart. It's not like you got to run back 20 yards, turn around, some guy he's got a 50-yard sprint coming at you. You don't have to deal with that anymore.
I hated that so much. I hated that so much.
Yeah. So now can you get some bigger guys who might be able to, just to do some stuff where you can trap block and that kind of stuff. In the same way, you get some bigger guys on the cover team. So you can kind of almost like a two-gap, type defense or whatever, where you could go in there, just butt the guy and press the guy and sit there and wait, for the returner to come and try to cover the field that way. So it'll be interesting to see how people approach it and stuff. And there's some places where you pull, you're going to try the directional kick. We're going to kick over to the left corner and get everybody cone over there, and hopefully you trap the ball carrier over in the left corner, you kick it to the right corner. So a lot of corner kicks and stuff. And then, so many guys in the NFL anymore, you just go ahead and just bomb it out of the end zone with a kicker and say, go ahead. I think they get the ball where the 35, they kick in the end zone. So you just take that and say, let's leave it alone, or, it'll be interesting. And anymore, you used to talk about hang time on kickoffs. You guys who could really hang it high and drop it at the, inside the 5 yard line, where they had to return it. Hopefully, you could try to make tackles and stuff and pin them inside their 20. Well, hang time doesn't matter anymore because you guys are already down there, and you can't move until the returner catches the ball. So the hang time kind of goes out the window. Now it's can the kickers place the ball kind of where you want them to place it.
Let me ask you, who on the current Bills roster do you think would be ideal for returning kicks?
I have zero. Well, who's the guy? Samuel?
Curtis?
Yeah,
I think he's
Curtis. I would
Curtis
love
Samuel.
that.
Yeah, he's done some in the past. Now he's getting to be somewhat of a veteran. So, but he's the kind of guy who could possibly do it. That's the only thought I have.
I wouldn't be surprised if this year you start seeing some more like high profile players across the league asking to be the kick returners. People like or Jalen Waddle, like just these guys that are great in space that are just purely faster than everybody else on the field. And I think it's going to be really interesting the way all these teams approach this, because there's going to be some teams that are much further ahead than others. Like I can't imagine what like Kyle Shanahan and San Francisco is going to be able to come up with this.
It'll be interesting.
There's going to be a lot of teams that are going to be able to figure out a way to exploit it, and a lot of teams that are going to struggle with it as well.
Yeah,
a little bit. Yeah, the returners have to be kind of, because you got 10 guys all lined up facing each other, and it ends up being kind of like a zone, like a running back running the inside zone. And can he set people up and create space and get the defensive linebackers moving, where they stick his foot in the ground and find a hole and find a seam and stuff. So you need a returner who can kind of read the defense, move the defense a little bit, create a seam, and then bam, hit that seam. And it's kind of Howard. I coached with a guy a long time. It's not speed to the hole, it's speed through the hole. And so you got to get guys set up and get them going, and then all of a sudden, through and stick your foot in the ground and pop through that thing. We shall see. Start tonight.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
That's what I'm 100% most excited for tonight. It truly is the kickoff.
Yeah.
There'll be a lot of experimenting. We did some trap blocking, pulling people out, trap blocking, double teaming some people. We tried to throw back one time and almost had it, and one guy tipped it and ended up rolling back out of bounds. So because all their guys were folding over the top, and so we ran over to one side, threw it back to the other side, all the way across the field. So it'll be interesting what the coaches come up with, and what the experiment. I think they'll experiment a bunch in preseason with different things, and then kind of settle into what they feel like is the best thing for them and for their team when the regular season comes along.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, and I can't wait to see how it all plays out. I do have we kind of wanted to talk a little bit about the Bills wide receiver room, but before we do that, let's hear from our sponsors over sponsor John from Game On Sports. There we go.
Hey, this is John from Game On Video Games and Sports Memorabilia. We are Rochester's premier trading card store. We have a wide selection of trading cards, autographs, and memorabilia. We also do autograph and celebrity appearances in the store. So if you're looking for the perfect gift for yourself, relative that doesn't like the Bills, or for a friend, come down and check us out at our Rochester location, 2670 Dewey Avenue, or our Hamburg location at 1 Buffalo Street. Go Bills.
As our sponsor over at Game On Sports, check them out. They got a lot of really cool stuff, not just Bills stuff, and you might meet some former Bills players or even current guys as well.
Wow. I didn't know they had a Hamburg store. I'll be back up in Buffalo next weekend, so I might have to stop by the Hamburg store.
There you go. One of these days I'll make it up there and go too, but
and hit the Hamburg store is where John actually is out of. His son runs the Rochester.
Okay.
Yeah. So, nice. Pete, let me ask you. Currently, so earlier today, I was just kind of scrolling through Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, and some of the beat reporters are calling Khalil Shakir, like he's starting to look like he could be the Bills' true number one, and with the plays he's making, he's putting corners in trouble. From what you've seen, what are your expectations for the Bills wide receivers? Do you think Khalil Shakir can be that guy? And where do you see Keon Coleman in all those?
Well, I haven't seen much at all. I've seen a few clips from training camp, but the number one guy is Josh Allen. It's amazing how good wide receivers are when they get good quarterbacks. And then they sign a big contract to go somewhere else, and they kind of disappear. And you're like, what? I thought that guy was a game changer and stuff. But the quarterbacks, a lot of time it goes hand in hand. The receivers help the quarterbacks, but the quarterbacks make the receivers that much better. when you get a good one. So, as long as you got Josh, I think you got a chance to do some things. And Shakir, I think Keon Coleman is a bigger body, has been making some catches. Samuel's going to help him. Supposedly there's a guy from last year who was hurt all last year. I haven't heard a whole lot about him in training camp this year, but they were really expecting big things from him. And then the tight ends are going to end up being, major factor in the receiving game along with Cook is the running back. And so I think the ball's going to get spread all over the place. And then, hopefully they have a decent running game and then you get a shot over the top every once in a while and get those big chunk plays.
I think if you can predict who the leading receiver is going to be outside of Dalton Kincaid, because that's kind of everybody's overall expectation that he's going to be the Bills' leading receiver. Like out of the wide receiver room, if you can tell me who's going to have the most catches, the most the most yards, and the most touchdowns, it would be a complete guess because it could be one of 3, maybe even 4 players. That's the exciting part to me, to where I being a fan, I'm allowed to. I bet I love making parlays on the Bills and but the last couple of years it was easy because all right, Diggs is going to get 6 catches, he's going to get 60, he's guaranteed 60 yards. Davis, he's going to get 2 catches, he's going to get 30 yards. Cook's going to get 50 on the ground. Josh is 100% going to run one in and throw for 200 yards. Just simple stuff that was an every week thing. And I was going through and looking, and I'm just looking at seasonal bets and stuff, and I'm like, I don't know who's gonna do what, because I used to be able to make educated guesses more so rather than being I hope this happens, I hope this happens, because it was the same thing, for the last 4 years we knew what this offense was gonna be, who it was gonna run through, and how it was gonna work, and now we have no clue exactly how it's going to work, going to be using more 12 personnel, having a plethora of different wide receivers and different styled wide receivers than Josh has had in his time here, with Keon being a true go up and get a wide receiver. Diggs and Davis were, they were good, but they weren't 6'4", 200 pounds with a 7-foot wingspan or whatever ungodly length his arms are. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how this offense is different. I'm very excited for the changes. Everybody was calling for a change of the head coach. This needs to happen. This needs to happen. Sometimes you just need a new flavor. You don't need to blow up the whole thing. You just need to change little things here and there and just figure out what works.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. You used to get a lot of those answers kind of in training camp and in the preseason games. But now the preseason games are, they play, half of a quarter the first game, and maybe they'll play a quarter and a half the second game, and then not even playing the third game. And so you're still learning what you are, what you can do, where you're at, and the offense and defense is still, kind of molding itself as you get into the regular season. So the first 3 or 4 weeks are still, developing everything as far as, what your personality and what your core is going to be offensively and defensively.
Yeah, I think we can all agree the season. It's definitely going to be different from what we're used to, but I think we're all super excited to see what this team looks like and how far they can go.
Now, as a former player,
a lot of people are doomsdayer. Oh, we lost all of this, we lost that, we lost that. And it's you're still good. You're gonna be pretty good. I still think they're good. I think positively, I still think they're going to be a good team, really good team. As long as you got Josh, you got a great chance, and he's a great leader, and he's going to win games for you because his leadership, his abilities, everything he can do on the field. And so, I think you plug in some new guys and away you go. And, in the salary cap world, where the quarterbacks are making $50 million a year. You got to make decisions on different people, and you got to decide who your core guys are going to be, and keep them there, and then bring on the young guys, and the young guys got to step up and go play.
Yeah. Hey, Pete, we've got, I don't know, about 10, 15 minutes or so left here. I kind of wanted to have some questions that I've always kind of wondered about, back in the 80s and 90s when you came in. That first year you were with the Bills, 2-14. Kind of give us an idea, if you can, of what it was like going from 2-14 in '85 to Jim Kelly in '86.
Well, it was. Well, let me tell you this. So I got traded after I think it was the third preseason game in '85. And I was out in Seattle, and got traded because Chuck Knox had come from Buffalo, gone to Seattle, and so he made a traded me back because he wanted to get a kid that he had drafted, a wide receiver. In Seattle, we had gone to the AFC Championship game in '83. We had gone to the second round of the playoffs in '84, had gone 12-4, and Kurt Warner had gotten hurt halfway through the season, our running back, the original Kurt Warner. And
I was going to say, I was like, wait a minute.
I knew who you're talking about.
who had skills like Barry Sanders-ish kind of skills. He was really a great running back. And he had blown his knee out halfway through the '84 season. And we still went 12-4 and got to the second round of the playoffs. So, going into '85, Seattle, we were a, Super Bowl kind of contender or whatever. And then lo and behold, I get traded to Buffalo, who had gone 2-14 in '84.
Yeah.
I used to tell people, I said, Buffalo was the team you got threatened with. mean, if you don't start playing better, we're going to ship you to Buffalo. And I said, and I got shipped to Buffalo.
That's
so
what,
I kept
that's what Dick said as well.
That was kind of the perception or whatever. But it was like I got there, and and it was chaotic. It really was at times. But then, all of a sudden Jim shows up, and his personality and his leadership and his competitiveness and just his willingness and how hard he works and to do anything and everything, for the team to win, and bringing people together and helping build the unity of the team. And we had Darryl was there, Bruce Smith was there, Andre was there, Jim Richard was there. I don't know if Kent Hull was there yet, or he got it. He might have been there
he was
just
in
before Jim got there. Yeah, so there's a lot of really good players there. It's just we just couldn't put it together quite yet, and Jim gets there, and all of a sudden we start. We still where did we go 4-12 his first year, I think, in 85, 86 or whatever, and then 87 is a strike year, and and we kind of I think we had a chance to get into the playoffs right at the end of the season and lost the game and didn't get quite the chance, and then 88 we kind of exploded and came on and things kind of rolled from there. So just Jim brought kind of that ray of it was always like wowsy woo, nobody wants to go to Buffalo, and all of a sudden Jim's like and Jim obviously when he got drafted in 83 draft.
83.
And, he said, he's like, I'm not going to Buffalo, and he went and played for the Houston Gamblers. So Ralph Wilson really stepped up. It was always that Ralph Wilson was too cheap to really pay players, and Ralph stepped up and made a commitment to Jim, and then obviously to Bruce and then Thurman and Andre and so on and so forth with all those guys and stuff. So. Ralph really stepped up and made that commitment to Jim there in '86, and everybody kind of started buying into the thing.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of interesting because I didn't know this, but I was watching one of the 87 or 8 games in '87, and the announcers were talking about. I didn't know Jim Kelly was the highest paid player in the NFL when he first came on.
Oh, was
board.
he? Wow.
Yeah, and it was like 12 million a year or something like that. I don't remember the exact number. It's like it's crazy when you compare that to what it is today. Like backups are getting paid 12 million a year. Yeah.
Yeah, it is crazy the amount, but and everybody says, well, that was in 80, with inflation and all that. It's like, yeah, that a lot of money is a lot of money, and
yeah,
and
Right.
the amount we were getting paid then is not nearly what it is, what some of those guys are getting paid now.
yeah.
So good for them.
You were Jim's pretty much his go-to guy those first couple of years too. Watching those 86 and 87 games, you were busy.
It was fun, yeah. Well, actually, I caught Jim's first ever NFL pass.
Mm-hmm.
His first completion. Who was that again? Was that the Jets? Was that the opening game? 86, I think it was. I don't know, but
Yeah,
I didn't catch his first touchdown pass, but I did catch his first pass or whatever. So and he said, "Hey, I like tight ends and stuff," and I was, I had, at least could, I wasn't going to run away from anybody, but I could work zones and work against people and create space and get open and worked at the middle of the field and the 10 to 12 yard area and so hung around for a while doing it.
Were you the tallest tight end in the league at the time?
I think so. I don't know too many.
At the time,
yeah.
I
don't know
think
anybody who's been. Art Still might have been taller. I don't know. There's there weren't a whole lot of guys taller than me.
No.
I was just about to say I'm gonna have to go back and watch highlights because when I met you, I was like, I feel like a 5-year-old child standing next to the dad, like looking straight up at you, and like it's always amazing to see people. You guys always look so small on TV. You look like it looks like regular size human beings, but you guys are monsters, in one form or another.
It's just because everybody is giant out there. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. It's amazing to watch how fluid you guys are. Like you guys are being so big and just being so smooth. I'm gonna have to go back and watch that and just let my jaw hit the floor.
I do love it.
I kind of get caught. It's like I don't think I'm that big, and then you're in the when you're in the football world, everybody is big, and so you just kind of assume that's just the way it is, and then you do take pictures with people and stuff or whatever, and all of a sudden you look at the picture and you're like, oh my gosh.
So
I'm really tall.
My last question is: did you play against anybody who was taller than you or bigger than you?
I don't know. Ted Hendricks might have been taller. I don't know. He was close. And I wasn't that big. I played at about 250, but I was 6'7.5" or whatever, so 6'8". Art Still was pretty tall. Ted Hendricks was. The one guy who used to drive me crazy was Sean Jones, defensive end, played for Houston,
right?
And then he went to then he went to Green Bay or whatever. Because his arms were longer than mine, and that was about the only guy in the league who could do, And so, everything's always a battle to get your hands on somebody and get your hands inside and control them and stuff. And he would get his hands on me, and I'd be like, "Oh my gosh, this guy's arms are gigantic," Him and then Reggie White. Reggie would just kind of play with you until he decided to get rid of you. He'd be like, he'd be whistling and like. And they'd be like, all right, and they throw you away and go make the tackle. And it was like, you're working your butt out. You're like fighting and clawing. Then Reggie go, all right, see you, bye. You're like, are you kidding me?
Oh my God. I couldn't have. I'm trying to block Reggie White. I think I'd rather get hit by a bus.
That was a lot of fun watching him too. Yeah.
Yeah.
My last question is, so you went from the 2-14 season, 85, to Jim Kelly. At what point, whether it was 86, 87, whatever, did you personally or the team start talking about, you know what, we got something going here. We got something special building.
I really think kind of the strike of 87, where we kind of hung together and we went out and practiced, during the strike, we would go up to UB and practice on it. They had a miserable turf field up there, but we'd go up and practice on that stuff. And I think just the us sticking together and talking about, and we, hung out a lot because we weren't practicing and doing all that stuff. We go out and walk the picket line and have secret meetings at the big tree with Bill Polian. But, I think that started bringing us together, us talking about what do we want to get? What do we want to achieve? If we all stick together, we can start making some things happen and stuff. And, we might've had the worst strike team in the history of strike teams or whatever. I think they went 0-4 or whatever. So, they kind of crushed our chances of getting into the playoffs that year. But I think that 87 season and during the strike and communicating with each other and building upon it, that we thought we could start building something from there, and gave us hope and stuff. And then we kind of came out in 88 and got it rolling.
That's awesome.
You're gonna have to come back on this podcast, because I have a million questions to ask about these secret meetings.
About the what?
About the secret meetings and about Bill Polian. I gotta pick your brain about Bill Polian.
I did want to ask you one more thing really quick. One of the games that I watched, I think it was 87. There was a game where both Bruce Smith and Darryl Talley got ejected from the game. I think it was against the Dolphins, maybe the Jets.
No, it's Houston.
Was it Houston? Oh, that's right. It was Houston. So you do remember that.
Mike Munchak, actually, I played golf with Darryl a couple weeks ago or whatever, and we were talking about it. And Mike Munchak, Darryl, I think it was Munchak, kept holding.
Yeah, it was Munchak.
Bruce and stuff. Yeah, and Darryl had been run down the field, and they had the ball about the 50 or the plus 40 or whatever, and Darryl was down in the end zone. And Bruce had gotten kind of going again with Munchak because Munchak was holding, and Darryl came running from the end zone all the way to the 50-yard line and took a shot at Munchak, and then they got into it and they kicked both Bruce and Darryl and Munchak, I think, out of the game.
That's funny. Man, I could sit for hours with you, have a beer, and I would love to hear the stories. But, we're going to get on out of here. Pete, thank you so much for coming on here. And like Casey said, we're definitely going to have you back on again, maybe at some point in the season.
Yeah, give me a call. I'm coaching high school ball down here in Charlotte area, and so it keeps me busy. But there's time. I got lots of time, so love to talk to you guys again.
That'd be great. We really appreciate it. We're going to get out of here. We do have some more guests lined up over the next, for pretty much almost the whole month of August. We have a couple of openings there. So we're excited about that. We're going to have Aaron Schatz on the show here soon with ESPN and also the creator of the DVOA. We're going to have Ryan Talbot from the Shout Podcast is going to join us. And we've got potentially some others lined up. So we're excited for the month of August. Looking forward to the season. Cannot wait for the season. I'm an eternal optimist. We're a Super Bowl bound team every year, even through the drought. I knew we were going to the Super Bowl. Casey, you got anything you want to add?
We have one more show until there's Bills football, and then the next time we have Bills football, I will officially be a dad. Or the next time we don't have Bills football, I'll be a dad. So this is my last season solo, I guess, if you want to say it that way. So I'm going to try to enjoy the heck out of this. Try to go to as many games as I can, tailgate as much as I can, and next year we'll have to do an initiation on the podcast, and I'll bless them with blue cheese or something.
There you go. That's awesome. Pete, again, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Go Bills.
Go Bills.
Thanks, Pete. Go Bills.
Bye-bye.